My name is Mark, and last December, I agreed to house sit for my cousin, Rachel. She lived in a cabin near the edge of Glacier National Park, far enough from town that there was no cell service, no Wi-Fi, and barely a road to get there. She was headed to Anchorage with her boyfriend for the holidays and needed someone to feed her 2 cats and keep an eye on the place. At the time, I thought it would be the perfect chance to get away. I was 22, burnt out from college finals, and honestly, I wanted nothing more than to spend a few nights snowed in with books, silence, and no people. Rachel gave me the rundown: wood stove heat, backup generator, water from a well pump, a box of frozen meals, and a .38 revolver in the kitchen drawer, just in case. She said that with a wink, but I could tell she meant it more seriously than she let on. Her cabin was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the trees, hardwood floors, a fireplace, and the kind of rustic charm that looked straight out of a magazine. It was all one story: 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and an open-concept living room and kitchen. On the first night, I settled in fast. The cats, Molly and Jasper, were already attached to me, and the wind outside made it feel even cozier inside. I had dinner, started a fire, and fell asleep on the couch watching old horror movies. I didn't think anything of it when I woke up at 2:37 a.m. to silence. Not a sound. No wind. No creaks. Just absolute stillness. At first, I figured the fire had gone out and I'd gotten cold, but as I sat up, I noticed something strange: the cats were gone. They'd been sleeping on my chest and near my legs when I passed out, but now, nothing. I got up to look for them and heard this soft thump from the kitchen, like something dropped onto the floor. I paused. "Molly?" I called. No answer. Just another soft thump, this time from the back door. The one no one uses. The one that opens to the deep woods. I stepped closer and stopped by the kitchen table, my hand instinctively going to the drawer where Rachel said the gun was. But I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The cats walked back into the room at that moment, tails puffed, backs arched, staring toward the door. I've never seen animals look like that, not just scared, but angry. Defensive. Something outside rattled the doorknob. It wasn't violent. Just one soft jiggle. Like a hand trying to turn it, gently, over and over. I stood frozen. The fire had burned down to embers. The only light came from the moon reflecting off the snow through the windows. Then a voice came. It was a woman's voice, soft, broken, just above a whisper. "Mark, please let me in." I felt the blood drain from my face. I hadn't told anyone I'd be here. Rachel and her boyfriend were the only ones who knew. There was no car outside, no footsteps in the snow. I should have heard someone approaching from a mile away. "Mark," she said again, a little louder. "I'm cold. I need help." My throat was dry. "Who's there?" I called out, but my voice cracked. No answer. Just silence. The cats bolted into the hallway and disappeared. Then came the knock. 1, 2, 3. Deliberate. Steady. Then the voice again, closer this time, like she was pressing her face against the door. "Mark. Let me in." I backed up slowly and grabbed the revolver from the drawer, checking the cylinder. Loaded. I held it tight, not pointing it yet, just gripping it like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. I stood there for what felt like an hour, waiting for her to say something again. But she didn't. The knocking stopped. No voice. No sounds. And then I saw it. A face at the window. But it wasn't just any face, it was my mother's. Only, she lived 2 states away. And she'd passed away last April. "Mark," she said, her lips not quite matching the sound. "Let me in, baby." I staggered backward. My hand trembled, the revolver heavy in my grip. The face didn't move. It just stared through the glass with that slack, almost smiling expression. That's when I remembered the funeral. The clothes she was buried in. The lavender sweater, the white scarf. The thing outside wore the exact same outfit. "I need you," it said. "Let me in." I didn't scream. I couldn't. Something in me shut down. I walked backward into the bedroom, locked the door, and sat with my back against it, gun in my lap, heart about to explode. I must have stayed like that until morning, because when I finally opened the door, sunlight was pouring in, and there was no one outside. No footprints in the snow. No sign anyone had ever been there. But the weirdest part? The cats refused to come near the back door for the rest of my stay. I tried not to think about it. I told myself it was stress, grief, isolation. But that night, just after 10 p.m., the power flickered, the fire went out, and I heard someone whisper, "Mark," again. Only this time, it was coming from inside the house. The moment I heard that whisper from inside the cabin, my name, spoken in my mother's voice, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't only the impossibility of hearing her again after she'd been dead for nearly 9 months. It was the tone. Like something had worn her voice like a mask, but didn't know how to use it. It got the shape of her words right, but not the soul of them. I stood in the bedroom doorway, paralyzed, one hand gripping the revolver, the other shaking so hard I thought the flashlight would drop. The hallway outside was dark. Too dark. Even though I'd left a lamp on, it looked like the shadows had devoured it. Chula, the neighbor's dog Rachel sometimes let in when she stayed here, had started scratching at the back door hours earlier, but I hadn't dared open it. And now, I wished she was inside. I needed something, anything, living near me. I stepped out into the hallway, the revolver leading the way like a spear. The floorboards creaked under my feet. The cabin felt smaller now, like the walls were bending in. I didn't hear the voice again. Not yet. But something had changed in the air. Heavier. It pressed on my chest like wet wool. The temperature dropped sharply. I could see my breath even though the fireplace was roaring when I passed the living room. I checked every room. Nothing. No one. No signs of entry. Windows all locked. Doors bolted. Except, when I reached the back of the cabin, the guest room, I noticed something was off. The curtains were moving slightly. I hadn't opened a window. I didn't remember even touching the curtains in here. I approached slowly, aiming the flashlight toward the glass, and that's when I saw it, handprints. Dozens of them. On the inside. Long, thin, childlike palms smeared across the glass, like someone, or something, had been dragging their fingers along it in long, looping circles. I stumbled back. My flashlight flickered. Then the voice came again, but not from outside. From right behind me. "You said you missed me." I spun around, heart in my throat, and shined the light toward the sound. Nothing. Just the hallway again, stretching too long, like the cabin had grown. My breathing turned shallow. The light caught something on the floor, footprints. Wet. Bare. They led down the hall toward the bathroom. I didn't want to go. Every cell in my body told me to leave, to run out into the snow, forget the car, forget the roads, just sprint until I collapsed. But something deeper held me in place. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was that twisted part of grief that makes you want to believe that she was here, that some miracle had happened. I followed the prints. The door to the bathroom was half open, the mirror inside catching just enough light to reflect the hallway. I stopped in front of it, not breathing. My flashlight dimmed again. I gripped it tighter and nudged the door. Inside, steam fogged the mirror like someone had taken a long, hot shower. But the room was ice cold. The tub was bone dry. And there, written in the condensation, were the words, "I remember how you cried." I backed away, pistol up, heart slamming against my ribs. I knew what this was now. This wasn't just haunting. This thing, it knew me. It had watched. It had waited. It didn't just want in. It wanted me to let it in. Willingly. I returned to the living room, pacing, trying to think. The revolver was useless against something like this. I needed to get out. Just make it to the car and drive until I hit cell service. But when I opened the front door, my heart stopped. The snow outside, untouched until now, was covered in footprints. Dozens. No, hundreds. Circling the cabin. Some large. Some small. Some crawling. Some upright. All of them, wrong. Like people who forgot how to walk. I slammed the door shut and locked it, turning to find the living room wasn't empty anymore. There was something crouched in the corner, just beyond the firelight. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just stared. Its head was tilted, face half hidden by long black hair, arms too long, fingers scraping against the wooden floor. I raised the revolver. "Don't come closer," I said, but my voice cracked, useless. The thing smiled. I didn't see teeth, just darkness. Then it said, in my voice, "I remember how you begged." I fired. The gunshot was deafening. The flash lit the whole room for a split second, and it was gone. Just a dent in the floor. No blood. No body. I was alone again. I dropped to my knees, shaking, and that's when I heard something new. Not a voice. Not a knock. But laughter. Soft. Childlike. From under the floorboards. I backed toward the wall, and the sound followed. Crawling beneath the planks. Inching closer to the center of the room. I remembered something Rachel told me in passing once, some joke, I thought at the time. If the fire ever dies out completely, she'd said, don't stay inside. Not even for a minute. My eyes snapped to the fireplace. The logs had burned to ash. The embers were gone. The light had died. And suddenly, I understood why the cold was winning. I scrambled to the stack of wood by the hearth and tried to relight it. My hands fumbled with the lighter, the kindling damp with melted snow from my boots earlier. The laughter grew louder, circling the room now, overlapping with whispers in my mother's voice, saying my name over and over, stretching it, warping it, until it didn't sound like my name anymore. Just a sound. Just bait. The fire sparked, caught, and roared to life. The temperature lifted slightly. The voices stopped. The floorboards groaned, like something slinking away beneath them. And I collapsed back against the couch, soaked in sweat. That's when I saw the note. On the kitchen counter. A piece of notebook paper that hadn't been there before. My name written at the top in perfect cursive. Below, just 4 words, "You're almost ready now." I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I sat in the chair by the fire, gun across my lap, and watched the window as the snow continued to fall. And I knew, without a doubt, that whatever was outside didn't just want in. It wanted to become me. Or maybe it already had. I don't know what time I finally fell asleep, if you can even call it that. It was more like drifting into a blank, exhausted state, my body giving out before my mind did. When I woke up, the fire had burned low again but was still clinging to life, and faint daylight filtered through the cabin's frost-covered windows. For the first time in 2 nights, the world outside looked still. No footprints. No shadows. No voices. I told myself that today, I was leaving. I didn't care if I had to hike 10 miles through snow. I needed to get out. I needed to see other people, hear real voices, be reminded that the world hadn't turned inside out. I packed what I could: gun, flashlight, spare clothes, a half-charged phone that still had no signal, and stood by the front door, my hand hovering over the handle. That's when I noticed something strange. The air. It was warmer. Not cabin warm, but wrong warm. Like breath on the back of your neck. I turned slowly, and that's when I saw the bedroom door was open again. I hadn't touched it. I'd locked it. I'd checked it 3 times. But now, it sat wide open, dark beyond the frame. I stepped toward it cautiously, revolver ready, flashlight sweeping the walls. The room looked exactly as I left it: rumpled blankets, half-packed bag, my coat still thrown over the chair. Nothing moved. But then I heard a faint sound. Something like breathing. Not mine. Deep. Slow. Wet. Coming from inside the closet. I should have left. I know that. I should have turned and walked straight out of that cabin and never looked back. But something pulled me toward it: curiosity, fear, maybe even a shred of guilt. I opened the closet door. Nothing. Just old coats, a few boxes, and a dark patch on the floor that looked like mold. I backed away. But the sound was still there. Louder now. Behind me. I spun around, and saw myself. Standing in the doorway. Same face. Same clothes. Same eyes, but hollow, empty, wide, and lifeless like glass. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just stared. And I knew. I knew then that I'd already let it in. Maybe it had gotten inside the night I saw the handprints. Or maybe it had always been in here, hiding, waiting. I raised the revolver, but it didn't flinch. Instead, it tilted its head slightly and smiled. Not wide. Not threatening. Just amused. Like it was watching me figure something out too late. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice a whisper. It mirrored the words, but its mouth didn't move. Like an echo inside my own head. I fired. The shot lit up the room, but there was nothing there. Just a hole in the wooden floor. My ears rang. My hands shook. And somewhere in the corner of the room, I thought I saw something shift, like the wall rippled for a moment, bending in and out like fabric. I left the room and ran outside. I didn't care that I wasn't dressed for the snow, didn't care that my car was half buried in ice. I started walking, trudging through knee-deep powder, gun clenched in one hand, breath ragged in the cold air. I didn't look back. Not once. I walked until I saw the old ranger station about 2 miles out, abandoned, but solid. I forced the door open, collapsed inside, and finally allowed myself to cry. Just once. Just enough. I stayed there for hours. No signal. No rescue. But no voices either. When night fell again, I built a fire in the stove, curled up in a cot under an old wool blanket, and tried to remind myself that I was still real. That everything else was a nightmare. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of someone knocking. Not on the front door. On the window beside the cot. Just 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, through the thin, frosted glass, I heard her. "Mark. I found you." I stared at the wall. I didn't speak. I didn't answer. But deep down, part of me wondered, what if this time, it was her? What if I'd been wrong, and this whole thing was just my mind tearing itself apart with grief and isolation? What if I opened the door, and it was just my mom, shivering in the cold, needing her son? I closed my eyes. And then I heard it, soft footsteps walking around the station. She was circling again. Tapping on windows. Whispering through the cracks. My name. Over and over. "Mark. Let me in. Please. You're all alone." I think I fell asleep eventually, or maybe I blacked out. But when I opened my eyes again, the fire had gone out. Snow was falling through a broken pane in the window. And on the floor, drawn in the ash, were the same 4 words I'd seen before. Only this time, they weren't a warning. "You already let me in." I stared at the words for a long time. Then I looked at my hands. They were covered in soot. My fingertips, black with ash. Like I'd written them myself. Maybe I had. Maybe she had. Maybe there's no difference anymore. I'm still here. Still alive, I think. But sometimes when I pass a mirror, I see something move slightly out of sync with me. Like a reflection that's just a fraction of a second too slow. Like it's waiting for me to look away. I don't sleep much now. I can't. Because every night, without fail, I hear knocking. Sometimes on the window. Sometimes from under the floor. Sometimes, when I try to ignore it, from right behind me. And I know, one day soon, I'll open my eyes and see her standing there again, smiling with my mother's face. And this time, I'm not sure I'll say no.